This is why I keep deducting your potatoes.
It's fine. I earned enough potatoes in BattleTech. Like, that was a running... We were so annoyed that we did not come up with that running joke until the DLC. Thank God there was a shitload of DLC in that game.
May I note, I once referenced to Kikyo that I stole all her cheese and replaced it with the processed slices that come in the plastic wrap because of that.
So, fun fact, legally, those are not cheese. They are a pasteurized dairy product, but it has to do with, like, moisture content, dairy content, fat content, that sort of thing. Like, the precise proportion of stuff that makes up the American cheese slices, technically, they are not legally cheese. The Baroness is a great name for a gun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the lady.
Don't make me pull out the negotiator.
We talked about this. Like, we've had this discussion how, like, those kind of names are actually more powerful than, let's say, the Last King's sword, or, like, you know, grandiloquent. Grandiloquent? Is that even an English word?
It is now. So, sometimes for weapons, simpler is better. Like, oh, it's the Lost King's longsword of grand whatever. Sure, he's probably got lots of lost swords. Over here we have the Fuckbringer.
I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry, bombastic is the word?
Bombastic is a word.
Yeah.
Okay, so like, yeah, so there's a word in French that basically means huge use of words for saying not much, which is grandiloquent. And I was like, I couldn't somehow find the word, so I went with whatever English pronunciation I had. And so turns out you could actually use like bombastic or melodramatic as a word.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And like, bombastic and melodramatic have slightly different connotations, but they cover similar territory, shall we say. Are you my mummy?
No. Do not ever pull the Doctor Who reference on me.
I should rewatch the Chris Eccleston episodes. Granted, it's been a long time since I've watched any Doctor Who, but
I am so behind. I'm still on Eccleston.
but like the most recent well, I caught the odd Jodie Foster episode when there was a marathon going on a year ago, I want to say. But like, I was halfway through Peter Capaldi's run, and then we no longer had BBC America, so it was just like, well, guess I'm not watching this anymore.
Shame. Cause like, I know that there was a point where I could watch it on Netflix, but then no. So I think I initially had a streaming website, but because my connection was terrible for streaming back in Lyon, a colleague of mine just downloaded the whole seasons and put them on my external drive. So I technically have them. I just don't watch them.
Like, I'm behind on so much, because like my TV up here is currently only hooked up to like my gaming consoles. Ever since we revamped our cable system here, And like, I just don't go downstairs to watch TV that much, so there's a whole ton of shows that like I should watch these, but effort. I will occasionally watch things on Netflix with Star because she has access to my Netflix account.
Yeah, like the thing is, I like to take, when it comes to the media I consume, I like to go at my own pace.
Yeah, that's a good way to go about it.
And so, like, it's not just theories or movies. It's also true with webtoons and manga scans. Like, weekly updates are not for me. They're not for me. Like, I don't have the mental capacity each week to think, oh, I have to read this, oh, I have to watch this. I prefer to like binge 5 episodes in an evening and binge the last 3 later on.
So there is a webcomic which I read for many years. It's called Questionable Content. It's one of the long runners in terms of webcomics. But I read it for a good long time, and then there was a span of like 3 or 4 years where I didn't read it. Like, I had gone out of town for 2 weeks or something and fell horribly behind, and I was like, you know what, screw it, I don't need to read it anymore. And then, finally, sometime in the past 2 months, I was like, you know what, it's been a long time since I've read this. Why don't I try to pick up where I left off and just go through and see what's happened? And so, like, for a couple of days, I just binge read the entire thing, and I'm caught up on it, and I'm reading it regularly again. But the thing is, like, I'm reading it, and I'm like, man, this has gone in a really weird direction, and it keeps going in weirder directions, and what the hell happened? And at this point, it's like, the main reason I'm still reading is I want to see how batshit crazy this gets. Like,
fair. On my end, there's a webcomic webtoon actually that I've started reading like 2 years ago, whose name is Purple Hyacinth. And like when I discovered it, the first season had just ended, and the authors were on hiatus. Which was a time where I rewatched the first season like 6 times. Well, reread. But when season 2 started, I didn't have the mental capacity to catch on the updates every week, and it was actually more frustrating for me to wait a whole week for the update, because a lot of details that I would have noticed in the previous chapters would be lost in the back of my mind. And since it's a mystery webtoon with a lot of theories and hints everywhere, it's kind of important, that you notice all the little details.
yeah.
And so I just dropped it, and some point, like 4 or 5 months later, I just picked it up again and caught up on like 10 episodes at once, and it was much better for me.
Yeah. And that is totally, like, I believe that you should feel comfortable consuming media at your own pace, and granted, I'm significantly older than you, so I'm used to, like, oh, I have to get home at 4:30 if I want to watch the Power Rangers. 5-year-old me, 6-year-old me, however the fuck old I was when Power Rangers was a thing. So, like, the idea of scheduled TV shows is still kind of ingrained in me, but on the other hand, with the advent of streaming, it's just like, it's nice that I can just watch the show whenever.
Yeah, like, back when I was a kid, I had this middle ground of, there was still a lot of scheduled TV show that I would that I ended up missing anyway because single mom, getting her kids way after hours at school. So I still would miss one of the shows I wanted to watch the most, which was Beyblade at the time.
Okay.
But that was also the time where TV channels had replay how would you call it?
Reruns?
No, like replay services. Like they would have their own websites, which would allow you to watch the shows that aired in the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
And so, a good number of those I mostly watched through replay.
Okay.
So I kind of sorry, I was distracted for a second. So I kind of grew in this middle ground of you still had scheduled shows, but if you missed them, you could still watch them. And sometimes like there was a series I think it was called The Negotiator or The Mediator. Well, the guys who intervene whenever there's hostage and stuff.
Negotiator or mediator, I've seen both used.
So yeah, and like this show, I missed most of it, but for a month and a half, the whole season was available for replay on the platform to the channel it was aired to. So I caught it up while what was it? I think that was while ironing, actually. So yeah. But then, yeah, you get streaming, you get being able to binge an entire anime just the way you want. This is great, actually.
Yeah, when Star and I were going through The Good Place, The Good Place was amazing, by the way.
I only watched the first season and I liked it a lot, but like once the first season ended, I was like, okay, I've had enough.
That is fair. It like much like Gravity Falls, it has kind of like a perfect ending. But when we were going through The Good Place, basically our strategy was, okay, 1 week we watch like 5-6 episodes together, and then we don't watch again for like 3 weeks, and then another day we watch like 5 or 6 episodes. That sort of thing, like binge and then not watch it for a month, binge and then not watch it for a month.
Yeah, I know that all too well.
You missed.
Ah.
Terminated.
As if it feels, if a shot has not been taken this turn, it feels wasted.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you just can't help it.
Falcon Punch!
Come on, Fen, you can do it.
I'm remembering Fen from the other game, and I'm kind of laughing to myself. Because here we're like, yeah, Fen! I'm remembering SteamWorld Dig 2, and I'm like, you know what you did.
Let's just say Fen has undergone some developments.
Fen is a great character.
But a character you love to hate?
So, this takes place what is implied to be a long time after SteamWorld Dig 2. Fen doesn't entirely remember everything. They have, like, bits and bobs of memory, but, even within SteamWorld Dig 2, they undergo some character development.
Considering how you meet Fen in the first place.
God, that's really, really funny. Really fun. It's not nearly as funny as I think it is, but I think it's really friggin' funny. It's possible I'm a terrible person.
Could you imagine a Dungeons and Dragons party just meeting that way? That's, oh yes, this is how we two met, and somehow we're still working together.
I'm surprised we haven't had something like that come up in Smalls yet.
I've got the rare box now getting out. Oh no. The only antagonizing that's been happening in the Smalls has usually been result of Snark.
Maybe I may have to. I'm stealing ideas from so many things for Marshals. I should probably jot things down and get it into something resembling a coherent plot.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of coherent plots, so as you may know, I now have my internship, which happens to be in Paris. And for now, I haven't found a place to stay in yet. So every morning and every night, I have to take the train to go back home. And those are like long-ish train rides. They're like an hour and 40 minutes or so.
Bloody
And
hell.
so what? And then you had like 30 minutes of subway transportation. But and so what I ended up doing during those train rides is that I started drafting a storyboard for a romance fanfiction.
I mean, long train ride, may as well. I'm glad that you're able to do that by train. When my mom was in grad school a million years ago, she had to do one hell of a commute. It was from Fredericksburg to DC, but she had to do it by car because we didn't have a good train system at that time. So, like, she'd be driving for like 6 hours a day, going from DC to where I
dear.
lived.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So, trains, I'm all for them.
Yeah, and so the thing is, in the span of a day and a half, I managed to like draft 23 chapters just in storyboard.
Yes.
23. That's more planning than I've ever done in a fanfiction.
Oh, that's kind of fantastic.
And the thing is, like, so because I like to share what I write about when I want to write about it, I shared it to Kikyo initially, the storyboard, and she was like, "Oh my god, that sounds great." But then later on through the week, like I think on Friday, I sent her the good draft I had of the prologue, which was like an introduction to the main characters of the fan fiction, and she was like, "Okay, but this has such good flow," and I'm like, "Huh? Wait, I still know how to write."
Yeah, I had that conversation with my brother recently.